Welcome back to Learn Astrology with Mary. My name is Mary English. You can find me at www.maryenglish.com, maryenglish.co.uk and UK Astrologer. Hello, how are you? Now we're up to episode 499. Dum 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 dum. Next week is going to be episode 500, so make sure that you listen. Today's date is 5th of July, and episode 500 is going to be Sunday the 12th of July, so you cannot miss it. Now today we're going to have, I haven't done a specific episode on this. I don't think I've done one at all, and if I have done one, I can't find the one I've done before. But I thought it was important that when you go into private practice, that you know how to deal with difficult clients. Now, there will always be what you might perceive as a difficult client, and how you deal with a difficult client will be reflective of you, your practice, and zillions of other things. And how you deal with customer complaints, again, is reflective of you, but also the most important part of your private practice. Now, I'm going to give you some examples as we go forwards, and I also recommend, and this took me years to get around to doing it, I also recommend that you have a set of terms and conditions. So we'll go through mine. I'll read them out to you so you can get a flavour of what I consider is important. But the important thing is, what you might class as a difficult client probably isn't them being a pain in the bum just to give you a hard time. What you might classify as a difficult client, somebody else might think is a fab client. So the other thing to think about is, what do you classify as a difficult client? So the sort of areas of difficulties are clients that don't pay, clients that don't turn up, clients that are too demanding, clients that ask you to do something in a session that you probably don't want to do, clients that don't value you as a person and the services that you're offering. So those are don'ts. So don't pay, don't turn up, are demanding, don't value. And then you've also got people that will come for a session that have unrealistic expectations of what can happen in an astrological reading. So people that expect you to predict when they're going to get married, how many children they're going to have, what job they're going to have for the rest of their lives, the incomes they're going to earn. Those are completely unrealistic expectations. Then there are the clients that want to be your friend. And at the opposite end of the scale are clients that are so stressed with what's going on at the moment, they're going to talk about suicide or threatening to kill themselves or whatever. I don't actually classify that as a difficult client. That's part and parcel of running a private practice. And I've covered suicide in first episode I covered it in was episode 52, and then I covered it episode 234, and then the final time I covered it, which I've called it as possibly helping someone stay alive, and that's episode 474. So I have covered suicide quite a bit. So I don't consider suicide, I don't consider that as a difficult client, okay? Because I don't know how long you've been in private practice, but I've been in private practice for 30 years and also been a therapist, so I've come across quite a few difficult things. And then the last one is on my list of 7, I say this is the client that constantly changes their appointment. Now, I use appointment software, but anyway, we'll come into how to deal with all of these things. So we're saying that we've got 7 things that could be classified as a difficult client. The client that doesn't pay, the client that doesn't turn up, the client that's overly demanding in the session, the client that doesn't value the whatever it is that you're offering them, the client that has unrealistic expectations, the client that wants to be friends forever, and the client that is constantly changing their appointments. So these are the 7 things that I think would be classified as what we could term, or I would term, as a difficult client or difficulties with client. Now, before I went into private practice as a therapist and as an astrologer and doing psychic readings, etc., I worked in retailing, and I worked for a company called C&A, and they were a clothes company, and I was with them for considerable, something like 7 years. I was with them for, and then prior to that I worked for numerous different retailing outlets, so everything from ties to shoes to so I worked lots and lots of different retailing jobs. And a retail job is you work face to face with customers, and you're selling them things or not selling them things, helping them buy, I think is the best way to do it. But when I worked for C&A, one of my tasks was to oversee what we call customer services. So the customers bought something, they brought it, well, they haven't bought it, they've stolen it sometimes, brought it back, and they've taken it to the customer services desk, and the customer services person has to determine whether or not they will or won't give them a refund. 9 times out of 10 with C&A, we were quite happy to give either a refund or give them a voucher so they could purchase something else. But my job as manager for them was, if the person came to customer services, they very, very clearly had stolen the item and were then asking for it. And then they'd come with a bit of a story and stuff, and my job was to then go to customer services and to deal with the difficult customer. So I had already, before I even went to private practice, experience of dealing with people that were basically lying. I was going to say lying through their arse, but that's a rude expression. That were lying. So, and with any issue that you get with someone, I actually I'm not saying enjoy, it was the wrong term, but I quite liked the challenge of it. Now, in my private practice, I've ensured as much as I can that I don't have these 7 issues in my private practice. Because I've set up within the way that my practice works is to ensure that those things don't happen. There is another side to working in private practice, that you will attract the client to you that reflects something about yourself. So if you're going through a difficult time and you've got money issues and stuff, trust me on this one, you will attract clients with money issues that are the ones that then won't pay you. So now it's really impossible to have a session with me. So we start with number 1, with people that won't pay, because they pay before they have their session. So when they use my booking app and they choose their date and time that they want to have their consultation, they then get taken to a page where they go to PayPal, and PayPal takes their money. There's no way round that for them. Sometimes when I've worked with a client for a very long amount of time and I trust them implicitly, and they send me an email saying they need a session, because I know them so well, I will book the session in for them. Sometimes people don't like using software, and then I'll send them separately a PayPal invoice. So these are people that I've known for absolutely years. Yeah. Now, before I had software, I didn't ask for money at the beginning of the session. I asked them to pay at the end of the session, but before they had the session, this is before I had any software, and we'd be talking on the phone and stuff, I would tell them, and it was used to be written on my posters, that they could pay by cash, by cheque, or by card, because you won't believe this, but because I went to retailing, I actually had in my office a card machine. They're called PDQs, pretty damn quick. And a PDQ was a digital device, an electronic device, where I could swipe their card through it, and or even push it in. I can't remember how it operated now. I think they push their cards in. They do the pin thing. And before even that, I had the little sort of duplicate-y things, and a machine. You put the card in this funny little machine, and you pushed it to the right and pulled it back to the left. But before you did that, you put into it some paperwork that had a lot of what's the name of the stuff, carbon copies, because I'd give them the top copy and I would keep the carbon copies. So and also when I took cash from a client, I had a little duplicate receipt book, again that had carbon paper in it, and I would write for the client a receipt, and I would give it to them, because at the end of the year, if you do not, and you're taking cash from people, and you do not keep a record of how much cash you've made, your end of year tax return that you're submitting to the HMRC will be an absolute nightmare, because if you haven't written down how much you've charged clients and how much they've actually physically paid you. I do not believe, and this is we're going to have arguments about this one. I do not believe in taking cash from clients and just sticking it in a drawer somewhere and not recording it. Some people do that. The law in the UK is that you can earn £1,000 before you have to declare it to HMRC. So you're allowed to earn £1,000 and not do anything about it. But I've never done that, because more than anything else is for the sake of curiosity. I want to know at the end of the year how much I actually have earned, and if I don't keep a record of it, it ain't going to happen. So I don't recommend, if you do accept cash because you're doing an event somewhere, just get one of those little duplicate books. They're ever so cheap. Write your name on there, put a sticker on it or something. They've got a receipt. They want to go home with receipts. Okay. So the don't pay, the only client that I ever had, and this is right at the beginning of my practice, was a lady that lived locally, and I was in supervision at that point in time, and this was when I was a homeopath, and she used to come round to the house and put money. I had a letterbox out the front of the house, and she'd put something like £3 coins in there. She didn't cover anything, but the idea was, because I was in supervision and these were cases that I needed to get my diploma, the idea was that I was only supposed to charge them for the remedies. I didn't charge them for consultation, or if I did charge them for consultation, it was a reduced amount. But I remember this particular lady used to put pound coins into my letterbox. I didn't even cover anything, but anyway. So the clients that don't pay today is probably unlikely to happen. If you've got some form of booking software, 9 times out of 10, it's going to include something about how they come to pay you. However, if you're working in your front room and clients come to your house, 9 times out, you must always make sure before they come how much you charge. So you tell them before, so say you're doing, this is really basic, you're communicating over the telephone, they're coming to your house at 4 o'clock, they've booked an hour's consultation, you say that you're going to charge £50, you tell them it's £50, you tell them on the phone or by email how you'd like them to pay you, so that they will make sure, because you've told them beforehand, that they will come with that amount of money. So they're going to, because a lot of times people won't have change or the right money, and then you've got to have change. I've done all of these things over the years. Anyway, that's people that don't pay. So number 2, people that don't turn up. It doesn't happen very often. I still have it happen, and it's reasonably infrequent, and that is because the person has booked in a rush. They've booked because they're going through a crisis. They're booked because they're having a particularly bad time and they want to discuss all of this in the consultation. And then on the day of the consultation, then in their minds, it happens to lots of people that are Pisces, in their minds they thought they'd booked for Wednesday when in fact it was Tuesday, and even though they've had an email reminder, they've still either got the day wrong or the time wrong and they don't turn up. Now when my clients book, they have to give me a telephone number because that's what's in my booking software, and I will then ring them at the allotted time. So say they'd booked for 4 o'clock this Thursday and they didn't show up, so I'd ring them at 4 o'clock and say, well, it's Mary here, you haven't turned up, or you're not online or whatever, and they go, oh gosh, I sort of forgot about it. What I don't do is that they've not turned up for that 4 o'clock appointment, I'll say to them, because generally I wait 10-15 minutes, that we won't be able to have the session now, or if we do have the session now, so there's certain things that happen. If we do have the session now, I will add on that 15 minutes if it's possible, because it depends who the next client is. Yeah. So if they've completely forgotten, you rang, what I tend to do is that they'll go, oh gosh, I'm really forgotten about it, and they're in the car or something. I'll go, I think it's best that we rebook this, because then they're going to be more focused, because if you have that consultation and they've not shown up, you rung them and they've taken the call, they go, oh, I forgot all about this. They might A, not be in the house, B, not be mentally prepared for it because they've forgotten, because they're so stressed. It's better to rebook the client. I never punish a person that hasn't turned up, because what would be the point? There's 9 times out of 10 a genuine reason. People don't turn up not because they don't want to. They've gone through the whole system to book with you anyway. So I'll just rebook them, so we'll have a little conversation of when's the best time for you, and then I'll adjust their appointment for them. But so before the internet was invented, if the client didn't turn up, there were still telephones back in the day. I would ring their landline or their mobile phone. And again, if they hadn't managed to make it to my house at that allotted time, 4 o'clock, I would say to them, oh, because I've forgotten things. I'm a Pisces. I'm just as guilty as the next person. I won't ever go at them. I'll just say, and let's rebook you, even though my terms and conditions that they're signing before they have the consultation is that if they don't give me notice of, I think it's 24 hours, but I'll read it out to you in a minute. If they don't turn up on time or turn up and don't rebook, that sometimes I think the terms and conditions to say, like, you'll have to pay again. I've never actually done that to forfeit their money altogether. I'm quite friendly about that one, but I'm only telling you this in case I don't take the mickey. Number 3. So the client that is too demanding. The type of demands that you're likely to get is that they want in their session that they've booked for either you to be more specific about something, or to predict things that just aren't predictable, or in the session itself they're talking to you in a way like, oh, well, that's not good enough and I wanted to do this and whatever. The session then needs to, if I find a client is what I would classify as demanding, I'll slow the session down. I'll go back to the beginning. I'll go to when they booked their session. There's a little section in the booking app where I've asked them, what is it that they, just a few brief sentences, what is it that they want to cover in this session? Sometimes people don't put, they just want to know about tomorrow. But I give them that space to do that. Yeah, because the being demanding thing is because that they're not feeling safe. So a lot of the things that we're talking about today about clients and difficulties with clients, or what could be classified as a difficult client, 9 times out of 10 it's them misunderstanding something because it's a Mercury retrograde like it is at the minute, or you not being clear yourself about what your services are and what you offer in your services. So if you are extremely clear before they've even booked about it, you're less likely to have someone that's demanding. But it does happen. I have had it happen. And the times that it happened, so this is homeopathy, not astrology. I had a lady that wanted something to happen and literally was demanding it, and I said that wasn't something that I could do or that was doable, and I just gave her a refund. So if somebody is driving you crazy, rude to you, whatever, and you cut the session short or whatever, you just say, I'm not homeopathic was in this case, but if it happens in an astrological consultation, you say, I really don't think that we're gelling, I don't think this is going to work for you. I say it's never happened in an astrological consultation, but I would offer them a refund, okay? Because, yes, if they go away, but they've got their money back, because the money is the thing that you've exchanged, even though, I don't know, maybe you were 60 minutes into a 90-minute consultation and you realise that this person's not for you, refunding them gives you less worry than to take the money off them. They're now not only grumpy about the whole thing, but they're probably going to slag you off to everybody else. So always you have to remember that when you classify someone as difficult or demanding or whatever, that's your perception of it. That might just be the way they are. You should be checking their chart out to find how they communicate anyway. But taking these things into account, it's best to offer a refund. Consultation that's gone downhill rapidly than it is to try and resurrect it. You're best off saying, I'm not the person for you. You've got your recording where we're at now. I'm going to refund your money. The bump, that's it. You're never going to see them again. But at least they're not going to be slagging you off to someone because they've got their money back. Yeah? Now, clients, number 4, clients that don't value you or what you do. Again, this hasn't happened to me much. It more likely has happened in an event. So outdoor events, being in a square somewhere. Bath's got a lot of squares, but there was a particular one, and I was doing an outdoor event and I was doing psychic readings and having a quick check of the charts and doing a bit of palmistry as well and cards, and a whole load of mixed things together. And anything when you're doing an event, people just want entertainment. They tend to gang up with their mates. They're all wanting to sort of, oh, she said this to me and I had this card and all this, and they're sort of having fun with it. That type of event won't value the information that you're given, so it needs to be much, much more light-hearted. You cannot do an event and go deeply into somebody's child abuse when they were small. There's not the space, the time, the confidentiality, nothing like that. And if you were doing psychic readings and you saw that sort of thing in there, you're just going to have to button your lip and not say stuff. Yeah. But it can be that you'll have a client that books a session that doesn't value you or what you offer. And so you, again, need to be clear about what it is that you do. So it shouldn't be a mystery when someone comes to your website and books with you what it is you offer. I can't tell you the amount of astrologers' websites that I've seen. I can't even find on there how much they charge. It's not on this. You cannot be a professional of any description and not put on there how much you charge. That should be public, how much you charge for people. Don't get me started. That one so makes me cross. And also, too much information about you, the person. They're not interested in that. They want to know whether or not they're going to be able to have a reading or whatever. You could put testimonies and stuff. But if you're doing your I'm an astrologer website, please don't put too much about yourself and how you got into astrology and it was when your mummy did this and you read that book. No one's even remotely interested in that. They want to know how you can help them. So that's the bigger amount of information that you should have on there. Yeah. But they're not valuing you, or also if their values are different from yours. So if they're into two-timing or they're happy about having affairs or anything that, you've got to think about what your values are. Do you want to read for people that are going to abuse animals, or do you want to read for people that are quite sort of swinging, so that they've got loads and loads of different partners? Is that going to upset you? Does that fit in with your values? Now, you can't put that as your terms and conditions. I'm not going to read for anybody who's a swinger. But you need to keep in mind what your values are so that in the consultation, you're not going down them describing and giving you the gory details of what they get up to and stuff. You're keeping the consultation very much from your side of the things that you value. Now, I'm a vegan. I don't blog on about it to anybody. That's my choice. I eat the minimum amount of animals as possible for me, and I have a pet. but I'm not going to be making meat-eating clients feel bad. These are values, okay? So the not valuing you or the services that you offer take into account your own personal values. So these are just things for you to consider while you're setting up your practice, yeah? So number 5, that they got unrealistic expectations. And again, that needs to be before they've even booked. They need to know what's going to be covered in a session, and that should be, if you're talking to them, like say you've been personally recommended by someone else who then gives you a ring and asks to book and stuff, you need to go through what the session will involve. You can tell them a little bit about houses and the different sort of things that can be covered in a session, yeah. But you might also need to, which I think I've got in my terms and conditions, I'll read in a minute, that I'm not a mind reader and I'm not going to predict your death or anyone else's, yeah. And the unrealistic expectations can be down. The client might want you to give them a 10-year plan. Well, I use the transit rhythmogram and it only goes as far as 5 years into the future. And I'm not going to be doing a 10-year plan for some. So the initial sort of information that you get from them, if you're not clear, because they've written in their email, I want to know about this, that, and before you've booked, or they have already booked, have a little bit of an email exchange with them before the session starts, so that they know exactly what is going to be covered and exactly what can or can't be covered in a session, yeah. So their unrealistic expectations is actually down to how much information you can give them beforehand, yeah. Now, this has happened to me, number 6. They want to be friends with you. They want to adopt you. They want you to come round to their house and to have dinner. It's a very, 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 very tricky space. I had it happen once. I'd given a talk about indigos at an event in Bath. And some people turned up, a husband and wife, and I became very friendly with them. Long story short, it didn't end well, and it ended with this person's dog attacking our dog and our dog needing emergency surgery. So what had seemed to be a nice friendship was because this person hadn't trained their dog and didn't train the dog and didn't believe in training dogs, and we'd had our dog trained, but also it was such a random thing. And so this, what had seemed to be a friendship, didn't help or wasn't, yeah. And over the amount of time that I knew these people, there was a lot of doing stuff for free and giving information, and looking back now, this is quite a while ago now, so looking back, it was a very unbalanced type of friendship. They were still are much richer than me. The financial thing was discernibly totally different. So it wasn't a true friendship. So be aware of clients becoming friends. You can be very friendly with clients, you can be very thankful with clients, but once you change the dynamic, because you are, and this lady didn't, and her husband didn't start out as clients, as I gave a talk and then they came for a reading. Both of them came for readings, and I got to know them very well over a considerable amount of time, but I say it all ended really, really badly. And it wasn't just that our dog had been attacked and nearly died, it was that on the day it happened, they went home and got a large amount of cash and gave it to me to pay for the vet. And it was as if the pain, the money, I didn't want the money, and yes, the vets were expensive, but we had insurance, but it was sort of like the way that it went, like, she'd got cash and gave it to me, and as if that would solve the problem, the money. It wasn't anything ever to do with how much it would cost at the vets. It was the fact that her dog wasn't trained, and she didn't feel that her dog needed to be trained. So that was the issue. But I can't talk about that one. When it goes to friendship things, be very, very aware that the dynamic in a consultation is that you're an astrologer, but you're still a therapist, and it's best that you don't become friends with your clients. Now, I know plenty of people in the world that I work in that have dated, so they're a girl practitioner and they've dated a male client. Those ones never work out well either, and the other way around as well. So it's a bloke practitioner that falls in love with a female client, and both ways around as well, gay, the whole thing. It's the dynamic is that you are the supposed expert and you mustn't in any way have close, friendly, cuddly, whatever going on with your clients. Okay, it's just not a thing. You can be very kind to them, you could be nice to them, you can remember their birthdays and stuff, but them becoming friends is not a good thing. Now, in the astrological community, you being friends with another astrologer and doing readings from them, that's a different thing altogether. But a person that comes as a client, because that initial consultation, that initial contact that they're making to you is that they've got a problem, you are the person that's supposed to sort it, and there's a great big power dynamic going on here, and it's important that you honour that you are the therapist, the astrologer, they are the client. Your job is just to do your job. Being mates with them, having them around for tea, whatever, no. So you can be nice, but being friends, so I have never ever before or since had a inverted commas friend with anybody that has come for consultations. There are plenty of my clients that I'm very friendly with, but they're not part of my social circle. I've got friends, yeah. I'll be friendly with them. But say this particular lady, I learned enormous lesson, and a painful one as well, that to be friends as opposed to friendly with someone and to see them all the time. It was because of the dogs. The whole thing was a dogs thing, but it didn't end well at all. So don't be friends with your clients, okay? And then sometimes people say, well, oh, they're a client and now they're training to be an astrologer. Okay, that's probably a different dynamic, yeah. So, but just be aware of that. It's the dynamics between you and the power play, yeah. For number 7, we've got the client that constantly changes their mind. My husband actually jokes about it. It might be because of my software, it might be because of the clients that I have, but I have numbers of people regularly who change their appointment times, which is why I've only ever written client appointment times in my diary in pencil. I'll read the terms and conditions for you in a second, but there is, a deadline to when you can change it. The software that I use won't let you change it the day before. So say you've booked your appointment for Monday and today is Sunday, you cannot change your appointment on Sunday. You can only change it on Saturday. Yeah. So there's a time limit. Now, personally, I don't mind that. It drives me crazy, but I don't mind it. I'm not going to not work with a client because they have changed their appointment, because going back to the client that doesn't turn up, there's always a reason why they're changing the appointment. A, because it's easy, because the software allows them to do it, but B, maybe something else has come up for them. I do get a little bit worried if they've done it 3 times. So I will then get back to them and we'll have a quick consult by phone. Like, you have changed this 3 times. Is there anything that I can do to make sure that your next appointment, is there anything I can do to make sure that the next appointment's for you, or anything that you can do to make sure that you can have that appointment? And then I will also offer them, I will say, if 3 times it hasn't happened now, do you want to have a refund for the moment and then book again in a month's time when you're feeling a bit better? Because they might be all over the place, yeah. But they're constantly changing appointments. It has happened prior to me having software. I have had clients that have booked and then realise they can't do it, and back in the old days they'd ring up and so that's why I write it in pencil and I'd move them, but I wouldn't hold that against a client, and I don't classify that as being difficult or dealing with a difficult, but these are sort of things that happen in private practice, that it isn't because everybody just thinks, oh, I'm going to be an astrologer and it's all going to be lovely and stuff. It's lovely for quite a while, and it can probably be lovely for absolutely years and years, but there will always be some sort of challenge somewhere, otherwise it's not real life there. And you need to decide for yourself what your values are, where you're, what will you put up with or not put up with. And say, I've been in practice for 30 years, so I've come across lots of different things, and this is how I run my practice now. Okay, so I'm going to now share with you my terms and conditions, and you might not even want to do terms and conditions. Mine are quite big, so I've got 9 things that about me, and 7 things that I expect from them. So I've got 9 things what you can expect from me, and 7 things what I expect from you as the client. But this is what I'm saying earlier about somebody that's doesn't value or is demanding or whatever. The fact that I've written these things down and I've considered them, and they'll read them because they have to be able to progress. And in the booking, they've got to look at it. They might just scan it, but they've got to look at it, and then they'll go, ooh, and then they have to write their name to say that they've seen it. Now, as far as legal things go, I don't know if any of this would stand up in a court of law, and this is not why I've done it. I've done it just so that I've put in here, these terms and conditions are designed to ensure a smooth, positive experience for both of us and to clarify our mutual expectations. Okay. Now, number 1 is what you can expect from me. So you'll have my personal attention, etc. I'm not going to read the whole thing out. Number 2, honest communication. So I bring my skills and knowledge to our sessions, but please know I'm not a mind reader or a medium. I'll not predict death or any such event. So that's number 2, because that's very important for me. Number 3, confidentiality. I don't need to explain that to you, but I'm not going to share your details, so you're my client now, not going to share them with anyone without your permission. And the only time I might is if you're contemplating suicide. I might notify another member of your family or the local doctor. Yeah. And I've put on there, if I need to use your birth data for training or writing, I will first obtain your written consent. So say you were a client and then I decided to use your, which I don't think I've ever done, but anyway, if I decided to use your chart on my podcast, I would write and ask you for that first. Yeah. Duty of care, if I believe the situation, medical treatment or whatever, risk of harm to others, then, and I will notify you of action. Record keeping, so your case notes will be kept securely for my lifetime. After my passing, you may request for their return from my estate. If unclaimed, they'll be securely disposed of, so I have made preparations for that. Session recordings, I will provide a digital recording of your session. For pre-recorded audio sessions, your audio will be shared via WeTransfer and available for 3 days. That's because I don't want to have to pay loads of money. Zoom sessions can be recorded and you can keep the video on your account. If you don't have an account, I will make 1 copy and share it with you via WeTransfer. This will expire after 3 days, so please make sure you look for and download straight after your session. I do not keep copies. Now, the reason I've got that written in there is I have been in private practice for 30 plus years. I've been doing readings since I was 18. I'm 66 now. I can't tell you the amount of times I've had somebody come for a reading, even when I made recordings onto cassette tapes. This is how far back this goes. There will always be someone somewhere who 10 years, 20 years after their session will go and email me, oh, Mary, do you still have my recording? Are you having a laugh? There is no way that I am going to keep on any system anywhere that amount of data. Data takes, especially audio, takes up a lot of space. Video takes up even more. I am not going to store that, but you will be amazed. Now, the reason that I get inquiries like that, it hasn't happened this year, touch wood now when I say that, is because someone's thinking, I'm sure Mary told me I was going to get married on the 4th of July to somebody called Brian. Not that I've ever said that. And I just want to check she actually said that in the recording, but I seem to remember she did. And then that's why they want to go back and have a listen to it again, yeah? Or they want to come for a session and they want to know what it was we talked about last time. Now, I keep notes. All they need to do is email me and say, Mary, you've got the notes about the last consultation. I go, yeah, we talked about, so this person here, we talked about your nephew, we talked about the holiday you were going to have, the job you didn't like, that type of thing, yeah, because I keep notes, yeah. But you will get people that will be so upset that they're recording. These are people up from years ago. But equally, you'll have somebody that has read all of this. It's been recorded and everything's crashed and they've lost it all. They will be absolutely bereft that they haven't got their recording. Yeah. So the responsibility for the recording really lies with the client. Yeah. That if they so much want that recording, they have to find methods to do it. Now, quite a lot of times people now record on their mobile phones, even though we're on Zoom and Zoom will record it. But they'll also make recordings on their phones. But I have had, over the years that I've been in private practice, people that have asked me for something from so long ago, and I've got that in there as my terms and conditions. So if they do come back to me, I say, I'm sorry, but, in the terms and conditions, this is what I've said, I don't keep copies, yeah. So credentials, you're welcome to request to see copies of my qualifications at any time. Additional resources, I may suggest batch flower remedies and recommend places to obtain them. And on the hypnotherapy side of my practice, that I provide access to a password protected section of our website where the recordings are kept. What I expect from you as the client, because I've done it both ways, what they expect, preparedness. So we will be working in a quiet location for our session. I cannot work with you if you're distracted, so I'd appreciate you keeping your phone silent. I've had a client twice that was driving whilst supposedly having our astrological consultation. That's why that's in there. Because you try, their phone kept bobbing in and out of signal. So it's important. And these are all things that I'm sharing with you. These are things you'll come across as you have a practice. They don't happen every day of the week, but over the years of happening. So it's really important that the client is prepared and in a quiet place. Sometimes they'll be in the house and the kiddies are running up and down and the dog's jumping all over them. The cats I don't mind so much, but they'll get in front of the screen or whatever. But and I don't mind the animals being there. What I'm saying, it needs to be somewhere quiet. So I will insist that people don't go to cafes unless they've got headphones on, because I don't want the noise in the background. I can't then hear what they're saying. So it does need to be a quiet location. Timely payment. So this goes back to people that don't pay. Number one, I expect to be paid for my services before the session. You can pay by PayPal, MasterCard, credit, debit card, cash. Can't take checks anymore, but you used to be able to back in the day. But you have to pay before your session now. Didn't used to happen. Punctuality, your appointment time is important. If you're late, we can discuss rebooking or extending the session, though not all sessions can be extended. Number 4, cancellations. If you need to cancel your appointment, please provide at least 24 hours notice. Cancellations without sufficient notice will result in a charge for the session. I think I charged somebody £10 once, but then they rebuilt, so I gave them £10 back. Number 5, astrological consultations. For astrological sessions, I will need your accurate birth time, date and location in advance to prepare your chart. This information is confidential. I had a lady once that came for an astrological reading and refused point blank to let me know where she had been born. Now, this was when I worked in a mystical shop, so it was reasonably easy to end the session, because I said, if you don't tell me where you're born, I can't calculate your chart. And she said, oh, no, it's confidential. I said, well, I'm sorry, I can't do the chart. So she didn't get a reading. So that's just, and then essential information, I require your full name, home address and contact number, and that's for my insurance purposes. Without this, the session cannot proceed. So that same lady, not only did she not tell me or want me to know where she was born, she refused to give me her name either. So there's no way that I'm covered on my insurance if I don't know the name of the bloody person I've worked with. Number 7, session recording. Your session will be recorded. If a recording is important to you, please bring your own recording device as a backup. So people that I see face to face, I've got a little digital recorder that makes it as an MP3, and I can email them the link and they can download it afterwards. I used to be able to burn that to CD, but I don't do that anymore. But if you're coming face to face and your session's important, I do tell my clients now to bring their mobile phone with them and record you on that. So today we've been going through difficult clients. We've covered my terms and conditions. If you are going into practice, I've covered a lot today and I don't want to overwhelm you, but these are just things to consider because you're working with real live human beings that have real lives, and these are the types of things that can happen. So you need to be prepared for what you consider are important things for you, because you can guarantee whatever it is you haven't thought of, that thing will happen, and now you're in a spin. What should I do about it? Yeah, so hopefully what I've shared with you today in the 7 types of difficulties that can be with clients, I hope that's been useful. Now, once again, next week is episode 500. We're going to have a quiz. We're going to have some giveaways. Don't forget to tune in next week, and I hope you have a fab week, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye now.